This is the Volvo V60 Cross Country. The V60 part means it's a station wagon. The Cross Country part means it's got a 2.6-inch lift, technically making it an SUV. The question becomes, is the best SUV Volvo makes actually a lifted station wagon? Let's find out. While rare, there are a number of car makers building lifted wagons these days. Aside from Volvo, Mercedes is in on the game, Audi makes a couple of them, Subaru makes a bunch, Buick was doing it, Volkswagen was doing it, but it's not a new phenomenon. See, back in the 90s, before the SUVs had taken over the marketplace, the definition of what an SUV was kind of in flux. Volvo, they made the V70 Cross Country. It was just a station wagon with a lift. So while SUV sales have totally eclipsed lifted wagons, they never went anywhere. I mean, Volvo's been making one for 25 years. In fact, now they make two. Why? They're better. Also, they look so much better. As far as design goes, I mean, look, Volvo's been hitting home runs for a number of years now, and the V60 Cross Country is no different. I find this vehicle to be gorgeous. It's super clean, and you could say like Scandinavian design, although I think that's a lazy way of just saying they've done an excellent job. The car's beautiful. One element to point out, of course, Thor's hammer here. This is what they call this shape for the daytime running light. It's Scandinavian, get it? But I mean, it looks good. To differentiate the Cross Country from the regular V60, they put this black cladding over the wheel arch here. I guess it makes it look more like an SUV. If they sell a couple dozen more because of it, great. Coming down the side though, the metalwork, the sheet metal, the surfacing, the line work, the curves, outstanding. It's so good. And then you get to the back and nobody can do the rear of a station wagon like Volvo. Just gorgeous. And then even these taillights, which are this big because Volvo's in the safety, they just work. It looks so much better than the sedan. In fact, why would you get a big dumpy SUV when you can have this? Look at it. I can't think of the reason why. I'm inside the V60 Cross Country, and this is a good interior. Again, you can be very lazy and say Scandinavian design, but really it's just a nice alternative to the heavy-handed, dark German cockpits we've grown accustomed to in the luxury segment. Leather, wood, metal covers everything. You can see we've got these extra blingy Bowers & Wilkins speaker grills. The infotainment system's actually really good. Aside from the fancy stereo, you've got this 9-inch touchscreen. It's in a portrait view rather than a landscape view, just like a McLaren. But most importantly, it just works really well. And I think that's the key thing you want out of a touchscreen is functionality. Behind the driver, the rear seat room is pretty good for this segment. More importantly though, with the seats folded flat, you have more cargo space here than you do in the XC60 SUV. So to sum it up, just like the exterior, the interior of the V60 Cross Country is exquisite. Up until now, I've been saying nothing but nice things about the Volvo V60 Cross Country because station wagons are cool and it's a design knockout inside and out. However, no vehicle is perfect, not even this one. This is actually the V60 Cross Country T5. T5 means under the hood, there's a 2-liter turbocharged inline-4 that makes 250 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. Want more power? You can't have it. Now there is a T6 version of the SUV and that adds a supercharger to the XC60. It gives you over 300 horsepower. You can't get it here, which is a shame. Not only is it a lifted wagon, but the Cross Country has a 1.2-inch wider track than the regular V60. Why do they do this? It pays some dividends off-road, but actually having a wider track gives you a better ride quality. And because of this, counterintuitively, I like the way that Volvo Cross Countries drive better than the regular sedans and wagons. However, because there's no supercharger, you get pretty good MPGs. 22 miles per gallon city, 31 on the highway. Just, again, I wish you could get one with more oomph. By looking at it, you might think that Volvo's #1 priority is design, but it turns out it's safety. In fact, Volvo has stated going forward, they want no one to die because of a Volvo. That's how seriously they take safety. While this particular model hasn't been crash tested, the mechanically identical S60 has. It got a 5-star crash rating and a top safety pick plus from the Insurance Institute. So there's every reason to believe that the V60 Cross Country is one of the safest vehicles you can buy. So how much for all this good stuff? Well, the non-cross country V60 will set you back about $42,000. This car is $46,500, which is about $1,000 more than a comparable Audi Allroad. The thematically similar Subaru Outback will set you back about $40,000. Now, should you decide you need to get the SUV, you want the Volvo XC60, it's actually $1,500 less expensive than this. But I would argue that $1,500 is a small price to pay for a car as cool as this one. If there's one thing I want you to take away about the Volvo V60 Cross Country, it's instead of buying just another SUV, you could have this. Now look, you might say, well, I need an SUV. Well, why? You're gonna go off-road? This can do everything an SUV can do off-road. You need to haul stuff? This can haul as much as an SUV. Plus it gets better gas mileage. Plus, look at it, it's gorgeous. Plus, it drives like a car. Actually, I would argue that because of the raised ride height and the wider track, it drives better than the car. So if you're watching this, I beg you, join the club, buy more wagons. To see vehicle rankings and a complete buyer's guide, please visit motortrend.com/cars. This is the 2021 Acura RDX. The third generation RDX launched in 2019 hasn't changed much except for this quite orange PMC Edition. And we'll go through all those details in a minute, but you gotta know that the RDX competes in an incredibly competitive and mature segment. Does the RDX have what it takes? Let's find out. The Acura RDX has been around since 2007, and there's no sign that it's going anywhere anytime soon. The reason is consumers cannot get enough of these kind of compact, kind of luxurious, kind of sporty SUVs. Like I said, it's the PMC Edition, Performance Manufacturing Center. That's in Ohio. It's famous because that's where they hand build the NSX supercar. Guess what? All 360 of these, and yes, they're only making 360 PMC Edition RDXs, are also hand assembled at PMC. The PMC Edition RDX represents a really good value because you get essentially every option available on the RDX for just over $50,000. As far as design goes, the RDX is no shrinking violet. Acura wants you to notice it, and they want you to know it's an Acura. Gone is the unloved beak grille. It's been replaced by this busy diamond pattern grille, which I think looks pretty good. But speaking of busy, it's nowhere near as busy as these headlights. From the side, they've done some cool things to break it up, right? So one of the problems is you have tons of metal. We call it visual mass. So there's this cool kind of convoluted sill here, convoluted in a good way, which breaks up all the mass on the side. Great line work flowing down the car, and it gives it stance, coming all the way to the taillight. Taillight's okay, but overall, I think this is a very good looking SUV. I'm inside the Acura RDX PMC Edition, and because it's a special edition, and you can see there's a numbered plaque right here, number 21 out of 360, it's quite nice. Really cool looking leather. It's gray with some Alcantara and suede inserts. There's orange contrast stitching. Acura uses really good material. They source their leather well. One thing they're making a big deal about in this car is the stereo system, because you have these roof-mounted speakers and you can actually control the volume of the roof separately from the other speakers. It's incredibly crystal clear sounding. You can really hear the separation between the instruments. If there's one bad thing about the inside of the RDX, and there is one bad thing, it's this trackpad. While it sort of works, it's not great. It could all be solved with a touchscreen, which the RDX doesn't have. As far as space behind the driver goes, it's a pretty roomy rear seat, and if you fold the seats down, there's plenty of cargo space in this SUV. Performance. Well, obviously, anything built at the Performance Manufacturing Center is gonna light the world on fire, right? Not exactly. For various reasons, the industry has settled on small 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engines for vehicles like this, but you can get some decent power out of them. This motor is actually derived from the Honda Civic Type R, although it does make less power. 272 horsepower, 280 pound-feet of torque. All that is fed through a 10-speed automatic transmission. The base car is front-wheel drive only. This one is super handling all-wheel drive, and that really does help performance. The RDX with super handling all-wheel drive is more agile than you think it would be. It drives better than you think it would be. Fuel economy is pretty good. 21 miles per gallon city, 26 miles per gallon on the highway. 0 to 60, 6.4 seconds. As far as safety goes, the Acura RDX is incredibly safe. It's got a 5-star crash rating, and the Insurance Institute says it's a top safety pick plus. It comes with a ton of standard active safety features. So how much? Well, at the beginning I mentioned that the PMC Edition RDX is a good value because you get so many optional extras thrown in for a relatively low price. But the actual base price is, well, it's kind of cheap. $39,000, just a little bit over $39,000. If you look at the competition, right, the Germans are much more. The Audi, Mercedes, the BMW, they're all gonna be $44,000, $45,000 to start. And then there's this car, resplendent in its orange paint, the PMC Edition RDX. It is just under $53,000. Still a good deal for what you get. At the end of the day, I like the way it looks. I like how the interior looks and feels. With the super handling all-wheel drive, the RDX performs much better than it needs to, and no matter which way you slice it, it's a really good value. So come on, Acura, give it another 200 horsepower. Make me happy. To check out the latest rankings, go to motortrend.com/cars.